preparation 1 week out is fine too, but the more unexperienced you are, the more time you're gonna wanna give yourself for preparation. And that can be to get fresh food, to get more comfortable pillows. I don't know, you want a new tapestry, it could be anything. Treat yourself, get yourself what you want for this trip. Do not sell yourself short. Hey y'all, it's 𝙈𝙤𝙜𝙤. Welcome back to the realm. Today, we're gonna talk bad trips and what to do. Before we hop into things, this video is for harm reduction and educational purposes. I'm not promoting the use of any plant medicine or substance. I am encouraging y'all to do your research and prioritize safety. Now, we've all heard of the dreaded bad trip. In fact, you watching this right now might just be on something that you consider a bad trip. And if that's the case, I know a lot of y'all watch my videos while you're journeying, so that could be the case. Focus on my voice, deep breaths, friend, and you're not dying. For everyone else watching this video, hello.
Hello.
This video is going to get into preparation, avoidance, and what to do if you're in a bad trip, regardless of the preparation that you've done. I'll be going over my top 8 steps to bring you down for a bad trip when you're in the middle of one. Now, y'all at home watching this video might be thinking, why does she keep using air quotations for bad trips? Aren't bad trips real? Aren't they subjective? Aren't they a thing? And for me, I feel like I have never had a bad trip, but I've had what I would phrase as a needed trip. And a lot of my psychedelic integration has been reframing what are called bad trips as needed trips. The trips that we need to have but don't necessarily want to have. We are shown things that we don't necessarily want to see. I think using the spectrum of good and bad, it's so black and white, it's so binary, doesn't really do justice to the medicine most of the time. For me, my spectrum looks more like wanted and needed. There are fun trips where everything goes right, and those are the wanted trips. There are the trips where we are shown things about ourselves and our environment and surroundings in life that we don't necessarily want to see. We are humbled by seeing those things. And for folks with a strong egoic attachment, humbling can feel bad. To be humbled can feel bad. I'm not gonna invalidate y'all. If y'all at home wanna call your needed trips a bad trip, that's all good. Please note that this specific video will be pertaining to magic mushrooms. A lot of the tips and advice that I give today can be applied to other psychedelics, such as LSD, and other journeying experiences, but today I'm specifically talking about magic mushrooms. So, let's hop into our first chapter, avoidance. While a bad trip or a needed trip might not be 100% avoidable, there are things we can do to decrease the likelihood of adverse trips. First off, dosage. How are you taking these? Are you just eyeballing these? Are you eating them rather than drinking them? Have you weighed out your trip? Are you prepared for the dosage level that you're medicating at? If this is your first trip and you don't have experience with magic mushrooms and dosing, please check out my video, Dosages for Your First Magic Mushroom Trip. This also goes hand in hand with potency. Are you aware of how potent these mushrooms are? If they're stronger than usual, dosage might need to be adjusted. Have you adjusted that? I've had a really rough experience with eyeballing mushrooms, but many of the times that I've eyeballed them, I've either taken way too little or quite a bit too much. And trust me, it's all about Goldilocksing it. You don't want to be on either side, especially the too much side. It can really leave you feeling fried.
This is drugs. This is your brain on drugs.
Next, are you sober? Being sober is extremely important. I'd even argue having been sober for a few days in order to prepare yourself to sit with mushrooms is very important. You want to have a clear slate, a blank slate. So, really quick, mixing mushrooms with other substances. Interactions at this point are very under-researched. Hippie flipping is a thing. Mixing mushrooms and alcohol, I really do not recommend that. And primarily because mushrooms should be enough. If you're getting the dosage right, you really shouldn't be left feeling like you need something more. And from what I've heard, it's just really not a pleasant experience to mix mushrooms and alcohol. Hippie flipping is said to be more pleasurable, but please look up the side effects of MDMA. For real, like their effect on your brain cells and all that good stuff. Like, know that before hippie flipping. Not speaking against it, just do your research. Eating well. Have you been eating well? Or did you just eat a bunch of junk food today and for the past few days, that's going to leave you feeling kind of a general malaise or groggy or just like not good in your body, whether you trip mushrooms or not? I recommend drinking as much water and eating as clean and fresh and healthy as you can and have space to prior to your trip. I mean, they say you are what you eat. Mushrooms can definitely leave you feeling like you are what you eat. Also, access to fresh food and like the hindrance of that is a thing, especially for you if you live in a city. I know I live in a city. Food deserts out here are a thing. You know, all of that is very real. So I'd say do what you can. A lot of folks out here can't get to a grocery store, but they're able to make it to the farmer's market, sort of a thing. Or you might have a friend with a car. Your friend with a car could take you to pick up some apples, some pineapples, some melon, something like that prior to your trip. Preparation is queen here. I like to prep 2 weeks out. If there's something that I feel like is far away from me or that I need to drive to get, I'll have time to do that. Preparation 1 week out is fine too, but the more unexperienced you are, the more time you're gonna wanna give yourself for preparation. And that can be to get fresh food, that can be to get more comfortable pillows, or I don't know, you want a new tapestry, it could be anything. Treat yourself, get yourself what you want for this trip. Do not sell yourself short. And lastly, knowing your family history. So, if you personally have a family history of psychotic disorders, this would include disorders like schizophrenia. You're gonna wanna take extreme caution in proceeding with if you want to trip or not. I can say right now, it is not highly recommended. And if you have this family history, you have a known increased risk to have a psychotic episode during your journeying. Magic mushrooms are not for everyone. So if you have a family history that gives you pause in hearing my words that I'm saying right now, please just take that into extreme consideration before proceeding. Chapter 2, preparation. So, I talk about this in all my videos, but set and setting, that's gonna be your #1 key preparation. Do you have a good setting? Are you tripping in a place that's clear? The energy feels good. You're not going to accidentally knock something over and break it if you get up. You wanna, in a way, child-proof your environment. You wanna make it as comfy as possible. You wanna make it as inviting as possible. When I think about tripping, I think about my inside as being a sort of home base, like I'm playing tag. I can be out in the world and all that kind of stuff, but I need to know that there's a solid, safe, cozy, nice home base waiting for me that I can get to easily without having to drive myself. You don't want to drive, you know. All of these things, especially set and setting, you want to prepare. And then set, are you in a solid mindset? Have you been in a solid mindset for the past 2 weeks? It's highly recommended that you've been in a solid state of mind for the past 2 weeks. No huge events, no giant losses, all that kind of stuff. Again, this applies more to you the less experience you have with mushrooms. Some people who are more experienced with mushrooms have the experience of having an extremely adverse event like a loss in their life and being able to trip that weekend, something like that. However, this might not be you, and it's important that you're in a solid state of mind. I know a lot of us go in and out of anxiety and depression. You want to be basically setting yourself up for the most success in journeying, and you want to be avoiding the most harm possible. So if it looks really rare for you, sometimes for me, it looks really rare to have a solid 2 weeks of mental health back to back. And unfortunately, all I can say is it takes a lot of self-work to do to get to that. And it takes a lot of waiting sometimes when I just want to journey, and I have to wait because I know that I want to journey sustainably. So yeah, journey when you're feeling good. Next part of preparation I'm just going to get into really quick is having a trip sitter. I always recommend having a sober trip sitter who can drive you around places, order food for you, interact with others in public should that need arise. When you're in public, it feels really weird to see other people. You don't really necessarily want to talk to them. It can be a lot, especially to see like someone in public that you perceive as lonely. That can be a lot. A trip sitter is going to be able to keep good tabs on you and to a certain degree ensure that you're not having a trip that you don't want to have. I don't recommend tripping alone, especially for folks who are new to tripping. I do not recommend tripping alone. I recommend tripping with a sitter. The more experienced, the better. And a lot of folks have people who are already trip sitters in our lives and we just might not know it. So if you're close with someone and they're your friend, ask them. And make sure they're prepared too. Your trip sitter should have emergency contacts. Should the worst arise, there should be some kind of like emergency plan. A lot of the times an emergency plan will look like talking you down from calling 911 or talking you down from going to the hospital. I get into this a little bit in my dosage video, but a lot of the times, especially for inexperienced trippers, something comes up, we feel like we're dying, but it's a part of us dying, it's not us literally dying, and we want to call 911. Not only is this a waste of time and services for those in the medical industry, but it is a huge stress and it can be traumatic for the person journeying. Vast majority of the time, what is needed is just them to be brought back down to earth, some grounding, you know what I mean? Medical help and intervention is not typically required. 99.9% of the cases that I've heard of where 911 was called during a journey. So if you know for a fact you don't want to get into an ambulance when you're having a trip, if you think that you might say that, you know, if you're losing it a bit, let your trip sitter know that. Let your trip sitter know, like, I don't want 911, I have health insurance, or I don't have health insurance, or I can't afford 911. And here I should also acknowledge that there's only a certain amount of talking you down from 911 that anyone can do. So you could exceed that boundary and that could possibly happen, but it's less likely to happen if someone is talking you down from it. Now that you have your emergency plan in place, another important piece of planning is water. Do you have enough water? Do you have access to clean water? Are you going out on a hike? And if you are going out on a hike, are you bringing a bunch of water along? Are you bringing food? Do you have things to eat? You know, I don't typically get too hungry with magic mushrooms, but sometimes I like to graze. Sometimes I like to graze. And if there aren't options around for grazing, that can be irksome. The next piece of preparation is research. Have you done your research? Do you know the potential side effects? And are you ready for those side effects to come up for you? You know, a lot of the times we feel like we're special, like we read something that seems extreme, like that's not gonna happen for us. And then the next thing we know, that's happening for us. Research the side effects and know that death is not one of them. The last gem of preparation I'm gonna give y'all is to meditate before. I'd say meditate for 10 to 20 minutes prior to your trip. Get an idea of where you're at in your head. Check in with yourself, ground yourself. I'm looking at putting out a pre-trip meditation video. So if that's out by now, please check out that video. Take a temperature check. Know where you're at up here. Ground yourself down here, ground yourself into the earth. Just center yourself before, make sure you're in a clear headspace, whatever that might look like for you. And you can also always meditate during and after, especially in an SOS situation. We're gonna get into our last chapter, chapter 3, a bad trip during the trip. So what to do if you have a bad trip and you're in the trip. You might be in the trip right now. You know, you might be in the trip right now. Everybody's solutions look different and are different. So I will be going over my experience and what works for me. Please know that these 8 steps, not all of them might be applicable to you. So let's say you're in the middle of the storm right now. You're having a bad trip. Let's say you even did all of the avoidance preparation you could have done. No one is immune. No one is immune from this happening to them. All we can do is decrease the likelihood of it. So here's what works for me. Know the importance of not shrinking. What does succumbing to a trip look like? Succumbing to a trip looks like shrinking yourself down to being as small as possible, shrinking yourself down to the littlest bit. And what this could look like and does look like for a lot of people is getting on the floor Or maybe you're on a couch on your bed and getting into a fetal position and kind of closing your eyes, and that's the last position you want to be on if you feel like the sky is falling. All of this advice is going to be around facing your trip head on, and that's the key here. So closing your eyes, squishing down, getting into a fetal position, not wanting to look at anything, that is not facing the trip head on, that's succumbing to the trip. And from my experience, trying to make everything stop, it just makes it so much worse for me. 2, if you start feeling the want or need to do this, and I'm not talking about just like lie down, but I'm talking about like SOS, fetal position, closing your eyes, that sort of a thing. Lying down can be fine. I've had entire trips where I just lie down. If you start feeling like you want to get into this fetal position, stand up. Like, do the opposite of that. Stand up, open your body, move, dance if you have to, or, you know, if you do yoga, do yoga. Have your yoga mat nearby and ready. How we carry ourselves in our body during our journeys is so closely attached to our mindset. So when we're more open, when we're free, when we're creative and dancing, when we have a dance playlist ready for our trip, we're pretty unstoppable. I've never experienced mushrooms to be completely paralyzing. The biggest paralysis you'll get is yourself and your own resistance. So something that is good for me to fight resistance is standing up, facing the trip head on, stretching, doing yoga, or dancing. And that brings us to 3, which is basically what I've been saying this whole time: face the trip head on. What is coming up for you? Be honest with yourself. Check in with yourself. Look the trip in its face. Look the trip in its face. If you try to look everywhere else but the trip, it will get so much worse. Trust me. Something is typically there for you. A lot of the times we don't want to see it, but it's there for us. Have something to divert your attention to. This could be drawing, this could be fruit, something to eat, just something to take your attention away from the bad trip. This could also be talking. A lot of the times communication will snap me right out of it, and that's another reason why it's really important to have someone there to communicate with. 6, change your location. If you're outside, go inside. If you're inside, go outside. Changing where you are can change your mindset. It can change what you're experiencing. So much is attached to setting. It blows my mind, and it's ridiculous how much is attached to the setting we are in. 7, do not try to hide it. Do not try to suppress it. If you're with somebody, which again, most of us should be, don't try to hide it from them. You'll just make it a lot worse if you try to shove it down, tuck it in. Be transparent about what you're feeling, and if you're close enough with this person, you know, tell them what's coming up for you. A lot of the times they could be like, been there, done that, okay? Lastly, if all else fails, stand up and start singing. Have a song in mind to sing for your trip, something that, you know, could pull you out of a bad time. Maybe your trip sitter knows the song, maybe y'all can sing together. But this is like the last resort, SOS. It's karaoke time. That's all I can say, it's karaoke time. You know, have the music ready, know what song you're gonna sing to, or sing a cappella, it don't matter, but stand up and sing. Project it, you know what I mean? Just create that creative energy, create that creative atmosphere, emit your vibrations out there, all that kind of stuff. Stand up, face the trip head on, and start singing. And that's pretty much it. I hope that this can get y'all out of a bad trip or help you avoid a bad trip altogether. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to this channel. We're on our way to 2,000 subscribers, and y'all's support means the most. If you're a fan of the realm, please consider supporting us via buying our merch. I designed this really dope Keep It Trippy shirt. It's available on our thread list. I will link that in the description. Please peep my other magic mushroom videos, or check out this playlist, The Trippy Stuff. Thank y'all so much for joining me today. I wish y'all the best trips. I wish y'all the most safe needed trips. And yeah, I just wish y'all happy journeying. Again, please subscribe to this channel, and don't forget to keep it trippy. Peace.